Alright guys, so now I'm going to talk to you about what to do when you run into some problems. The first thing I want to talk about is don't expect to put more weight on every single lift, every single session. This isn't going to happen for a number of reasons. The first is that people are just different and some lifts are harder for some people. This could be for various reasons, biomechanics, list goes on. For example, most people, their overhead pressing is difficult. Some people, few people, their overhead pressing is amazing. Point being is don't expect to increase the weight every single session for every single lift, but it doesn't really matter. I'll explain why. Let's say bench press and overhead press. Both these movements are pressing movements and they're both going to utilize the shoulder and the triceps. So, let's say we use more weight for the bench press, but when we go do the overhead shoulder press, we're unable to add weight, but we can still do the same weight we did last time. Because we already added weight with the bench press, we already put more weight on the shoulders and triceps. So since we did the same weight with the overhead press as the week before, we've already overloaded the tricep and the shoulders. So it doesn't matter if we can't put more weight on the overhead press right away. Now, if you go 4, 5, 6 weeks and your overhead press just isn't working, it's not improving, one easy thing to do is just swap the movements. So instead of starting with bench press, you're going to start with overhead press. And you're going to do that. Run that progressive overload for 3 or 4 weeks, and then you can switch back to the bench press. This should allow you to add weight to your overhead press because you're not going to be fatigued. You're going to be fresh when you do it. So the next issue is going to be you're unable to complete a rep scheme with the increased weight. So let's use bench press, for example. So let's say this week we do 150 pounds 5x5. So next week we're planning on using 155 pounds for 5x5. However, let's pretend that we can do 2 sets with 155 pounds, but the third set we're only able to do 4 reps. And then the 4th set we can only do 4 reps. And then the 5th rep we can only do 3 reps. What you can do is the next week, instead of trying to use 155 pounds for every single set, you can then use 155 pounds for your first, say, 2 sets, and then drop down for 150 pounds for your last 3 sets. And then the next week, you can do your first 3 sets with 155 pounds, and then your last 2 sets with 150 pounds. And then the week after, you can do 4 sets with 155 pounds, and then your last set with 150 pounds. And then the week after, then you can do all 5 sets with 155 pounds. Point being is that you don't need to increase the weight for every single set to induce progressive overload. If you only use 1 set with 155 pounds, you've added more weight. So don't think that you need to add weight every single set. That would be nice, and you will be able to do that for a while, but you're going to hit a spot, I don't know, everyone's different, maybe 3 months, where you're just unable to increase weight for every single set. Another option you have is to just increase the reps. Now, with these main movements, we're still working in the strength range, so we don't want to work up to 8 reps. But you can just work up to 6 reps. And so let's say you do 155 pounds 5x5. That next week, you can do 150 pounds. You can try maybe a 5x6 scheme. As long as you're in those lower strength reps, up to 6 reps, all you're trying to do is increase the total volume somehow, either with increased reps, increased weight for 1 set or 2 sets, and then drop weight. It doesn't really matter. As long as you're able to increase the total volume, you've implemented progressive overload. Using those 2 things, those 2 tools, swapping and moving around exercises and adjusting your sets and your reps, that should last you a pretty long while with this program. And then once you hit another spot where you hit a plateau, all you need to do is you can swap out entire movements. So what this is going to do is train your neuromuscular system a little bit differently. So what this means is instead of doing back squats, swap those out for front squats, okay? Instead of doing conventional deadlifts, you could start doing sumo deadlifts or maybe some block pulls. The important thing is that the movement pattern is similar, okay? This means you're not going to say, oh, I can't do bench press anymore, so I'm going to swap that out for seated shoulder press, okay? With the bench press, you're pressing horizontally. With overhead, you're pressing vertically. It's not the same movement pattern. And then once that stalls out, you can go back to the original movements, or you can choose a different movement pattern. But I think you're starting to see where I'm going with this. The idea is to always be progressing, always adding weight, always adding reps, changing around movements, so on and so forth. The last tool you have that you can use, which you shouldn't need to use this until maybe at least a year down the road, maybe even longer, is called periodization. Periodization is a little too complex to go over in depth in a small video like this. That's for another blog. But the basic idea is to completely alter your training variables. So this would mean having one block you're working in hypertrophy range, one block you're working in the strength range, one block you're working in power range. The next block you go back to hypertrophy. But the basic idea is instead of continue working in, say, that 5 to 6 rep range for your main movements, is to, you can either jump down, you can start working in the power range, maybe 3 reps, okay, 90% and above your 1RM. Or you can even go up to the hypertrophy range, 8 to 12 reps with your main movement. Again, that's a little bit more complex, but it's something to keep in the back of your mind you can play with. Maybe you're just getting bored and you don't want to go, maybe you just don't want to go lift heavy. Go do bench press, go do 8, 12 reps. But that's about it. So thanks for your time. I hope you enjoyed the program. If you have any questions, feel free to send us a message at Dr. Muscle, and we'd be more than happy to help you out.